let's go into the match preview. Big game. And because we went out of the cup, this game just gets a whole lot bigger, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
A whole lot bigger, because we just need to stay in the competition. It's only the 4th round, and I think we haven't been past the 4th or 5th round in a very long time. Since getting to the semi-final, I think. What year was it, the last semi-final?
Well, we got to there in 2018. Was that the last time we were in the semi-final, 2018? When we lost to United?
Back-to-back semis.
Yeah, we lost to United under Poch. We were 1-0 up. Dele Alli scored, and then we ended up losing to Mourinho's United. Yeah, wow, is that the last time? Yeah, our record since then has not been good.
It's been shocking. I don't think we've been past the 5th round, or maybe even the 4th round, but we just have to kind of be able to muster up something from somewhere, because I think the players will be, low on confidence after that, which was, prior to the Liverpool game, there was a bit of a good feeling around the club from the Elfsborg game, the Brentford game, but it feels like whenever we take a few steps forward, we take about 5 steps back, and that's what it feels like after the Liverpool game. Villa, they'll be nicely rested during the week, and we all know Villa can't really handle 2 games in a week. Whenever they seem to play European games, they drop points in the weekend fixture. We're the ones going to be going into it a lot more tired than Villa, with them having a fresh week.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult with the fatigue, having as much whatever one of people say about the work rate we put in Anfield. I think we did run a lot and we did try hard, and that fatigue will settle in at Anfield, and I think at Villa Park, and I'm worried about what the state of the team's going to be with very little rotation. We even lost another player in Richarlison. There's just very little options for us to rotate in this current moment in time, so it's going to take an almighty effort to go to Villa Park and get a victory and get through to the next round, albeit if we can do that and get through to the next round of the cup, there are still some opportunities there for us to do something special this season. But if we go out on 2 cups in 3 days, that'll be an almighty blow to Ange and to this squad, and that belief will start ebbing away even more, especially after how heavy the defeat was at Anfield. So we just got to dust ourselves down. Obviously Villa are a good team. They're no Liverpool, and going to Anfield is a different prospect than going to Villa Park. But we all know that Villa, on their day at home, they can also beat anyone. They've shown that. They can always muster up big performances. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not on the greatest form, Aston Villa. What was that? 1 win in their last 5 games for Villa. For us, we've got 3 wins in our last 5 games, 2 losses. So actually, when you're looking at the barefaced facts of who's the more informed side, you take Tottenham, which is crazy to think of. Yeah,
because you include Europe. Villa have lost a few European games. They lost to Monaco, and they also lost, I think, another European game in there. So they lost, obviously, to Wolves last game, which was not a good performance. They have been in quite an inconsistent form, I think, Aston Villa, in the league recently, for one reason or another. Maybe it's because of the workload, and obviously with John Duran out, and I also think with Ollie Watkins
sold.
Yeah, he's obviously sold, and with Ollie Watkins out injured, that definitely takes a big element of their attack, because if you look at the way they play, especially when Watkins is there, he is really the hub of that attack. If you look at the way, especially when they play big games, they very much keep Watkins battling with like 2 centre-backs, and a lot of the time they just bank on him winning. If they send it to him 10 times, they bank on him winning 5 or 6 of them, and every time he wins one of those duels, it puts him in a very good position. So without him doing that, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to sustain attacks. But Unai Emery is a very clever tactical manager. He does adjust things, and so without Watkins, will they approach the game differently? I'm sure they'll have a trick up their sleeve.
And I'm looking at their home form, Aston Villa, right? Since losing to Arsenal at home in August, they've only lost 1 home game, and that was to Palace in the Cup. So they're very strong at Villa Park this season. Rarely lose. So that's two home games they've lost all season. One in the first month of the season, and the other one like a month or 2 ago in the Carabao Cup. So it is, an uphill task to think that Spurs can go there in their current state and get a result. However, Spurs have got a very good record at Villa Park. Very good record. I know we lost a couple of years back there, but that's our only loss at Villa Park since like 2008, 2009, which is mad to think about.
Yeah, we've got
about 3 or 4-0 wins there.
Yeah, Bale scoring a hat-trick one year, Son's got a hat-trick, and obviously last season we beat them 4-0. with I think Son as well getting on the score sheet once or twice. But anyway, he played
Madison, Brennan, Son, Timo.
yeah, all forward. So yeah, we won 4-0 there in what was looking like a scoreline that was going to take us to top 4, but never really happened in the end. Obviously, we also beat them 4-1 earlier in the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a really brilliant performance from Tottenham. So we do have Ange. Pretty much whenever Ange has come up against Unai, I think we've been the better team. I think that's for sure. Even we lost them last season at home, but we should have won that game, and we created loads more chances.
Matty Cash ended Bentancur.
Yeah. So Ange does definitely seem to have something over Unai, but again, going into this game is going to be a different kettle of fish with the injuries we have and all these different things. So whether we can have that level of performance that we've had in previous games, I mean, it's going to be a tall order, especially 48 hours rest pretty much. And when Andrew was doing his press conference this morning, he said the players were still sleeping at 10 a.m. because they've only just got back at 2 a.m. from Liverpool. So it's really kind of a very quick turnaround for Tottenham. But Villa as well, they're a funny team where they can come at you, but as well they can be quite passive sometimes in their pressing game. They can have these periods of the game where they stay off you, and if they do that with maybe a fresh tail, maybe with Son running in behind, maybe Bergvall coming into the team, maybe there can be something there for us, but it's still going to take an almighty effort to get through this cup tie. It's also quick to remember, no replays obviously goes to extra time and penalties if we're drawing here. So whatever happens will be done on Sunday.
Yeah. And it is a big miss. You know, you mentioned before Ollie Watkins out, Duran sold. Who starts in that number 9 position for Aston Villa? I'm looking at their team and their squad. I mean, the obvious choice is Marcus Rashford, but Rashford obviously is not the greatest in the 9. You would probably prefer him on the wing. Can they play maybe Asensio in a false 9? Can they play?
Sofa Scores are predicting Donyell Marland to play there, because he's obviously played there before for Dortmund. So he's obviously a player who kind of a versatile forward, can play in the up front, can play out wide. He's obviously a new signing. They're going to have a bunch of new signings to potentially make their debuts, like Asensio. Marlon's played already. Rashford. Did he play? Don't think he played against Arsenal, did he?
No, he didn't.
No, I don't think so.
No, you're right. Did he not? Did he not come on that game? Or was that the league game I'm thinking of? So I remember he came on and had a really poor performance.
The league game he did. I think he was already been banished by the time of the FA Cup game, so I don't think he's cup tied. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so there's a few options they could play. Whoever they play, obviously, could be a bit of a surprise.
It's worth noting Disassi is cup tied though.
Disassi's cup tied, so he can't play.
I would have loved Disassi to play and tell to rip him.
Which is really good for us because Mings and Pau Torres are both injured for this game as well, so both of them can't play.
So be a back. Who will be the back two? Konsa and.
So last game it was. Konsa and Kamara are centre backs last game.
So they got a makeshift back line as well.
Yeah, they've also got a bit of a makeshift back line. They played someone Garcia at right back, but obviously Maatsen could play in this game, I would say, because he's quite a good fullback. Yeah, so I would say there's a few selection headaches for Villa, but obviously one player we definitely have to watch out for who's in great form is Morgan Rogers. He's just playing very well at the moment. He's also so great at just picking the ball up and driving at your midfield and beating players and getting in on your back four, and whatever they lose in Watkins, you know, Rogers could potentially make up for it with his ability.
I've been impressed with him all season, even in the earlier stages of the season when he wasn't getting on the score sheet as regularly as he is now. He was always a threat, right? He was always having a number of shots in the game. He was always threatening to score, is what I'm trying to say. And now he's actually putting that into actually tangible numbers in terms of his goal contribution. So I think Morgan Rogers is a top quality player, and he's taken to the Premier League so well. I think, was it Middlesbrough he was at last season? Was it Middlesbrough? Yeah, and he looks like a real find for Aston Villa. And he's got that like kind of confidence on the pitch that I remember that Dele Alli used to have. He reminds me a bit of Dele, not exactly in terms of the exact same style of play, but I'm talking about like the confidence he has coming from like a lower league.
Fearlessness.
Yeah,
and he just takes people on. I remember really, I really noticed it when against Arsenal earlier in the season. I know they lost the game, but I thought he was exceptional in that game. And I thought when he played that game, he was like turning Declan Rice like he wasn't there. I was like, okay, wow, this guy is really, because I thought last season he had a decent start to Villa, but like didn't blow anyone away. But he
came
was
in
decent.
January, didn't he?
In January he didn't blow anyone away, but it was pretty decent. But this season he's been taking his game to a new level, and I think he's been improving as the season's gone on as well. And he's going to be, I think, with Watkins out, he'll probably be the big danger man for me.
Do you reckon he could play a false 9 role?
He could play false 9, put Asensio behind him potentially. As they've got a few options now with the signings they've made in Jan. That's the thing; it's hard to predict what Villa will give, because they with potentially Rashford and Asensio coming in and Marlon, like these are players who haven't been there obviously this season, so how they'll impact the Villa team is difficult to predict.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with their new signings, with the Rashford and the Asensio, obviously these guys have not been on the greatest form in their career, to say the least, but I think they'll all be chomping at the bit to turn it around. And whether they revert back to type in terms of their bad form at some point in the season is obviously at everyone's front of their mind. But I do feel like in the first game or two, they're really going to want to try and prove that, you know, they're back and they're trying to turn this form around. So I think that could be really danger signs for us coming into a game like this.
Yeah, I agree. One other player who's obviously, I think, having a brilliant season is WeAreTottenhamTV in central midfield. I've seen a lot of Villa fans saying that he's really like reached like world-class levels this year.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of Villa fans are very, very high praise, saying that he's been their one player in midfield who's been super consistent every game and really taking his game up a notch. And he's always had that ability, Tielemans. I think he's kind of been, I think over the last couple of years at Leicester and his first season at Villa, a bit inconsistent, maybe physically gets overrun a bit. But apparently he's really turned into this controller this season, where he just, all the game runs through him. And we know he's got unbelievable passing, long range passing ability, shooting ability. I think he's always had that, and I think they're really making use of that. They're just getting runners beside him in Kamara and Onana. Just that's really gotten the best out of Tielemans, and he's one. If we can try and stop him running the game, we go a long way from stopping Villa kind of taking control of the game, I think.
Yeah, I remember a few years back when Spurs were linked with him after, you know, he left Leicester, and I was like really excited at the prospect of signing him. I've always thought he's a really good player. But do you remember when I think we were out in Ghent, and that hotel, the hotel man was like saying that's one player you got to watch out for was Tielemans, and I think he was like 17 years old at the time. And yeah, I think he's finally kind of getting to those levels where everyone thought he would get to maybe a few years back.
Realising his potential.
Yeah, because he went off the boil a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, well, especially when Leicester got relegated.
His last year at Leicester was pretty poor.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, is this guy overrated? Is this guy just a kind of a player who can do a good ping but not much else? But it seems as though he's really taking his game this season to another level, and a lot of Villa fans are like saying he's been one of the most underrated players this season. He needs to take more notice. So he's one. I do think in terms of, like, you look at their ability in midfield and that real ability to hurt the opposition, he's the one I'm looking at. And if we can stop him controlling the game, I think hopefully they don't get in behind us as much as they usually do. And obviously I think one other really important thing is if the game does go to penalties, obviously Emi Martinez is an unbelievable goalkeeper in shootouts. We've seen that for Argentina. I thought last season as well, I think he won one of the shootouts for Villa in the Conference League as well. So and even in general, just penalties during the game, like we've seen him save penalties in big moments for Villa. So I think Villa will back themselves if it goes to penalties, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Martinez backs himself against anyone in a penalty shootout, that's for sure.
Especially if we have young players stepping up and he's doing all this shithousery and all these different things. Like, he's a master at putting people off, isn't he, Martinez? And obviously Kinski, we only saw him face one penalty. That was against Liverpool yesterday, and obviously it was a great penalty, nothing you can do about it. But, you know, if it's Kinski versus Martinez, you know, I think Villa will back themselves strongly. So we kind of want to avoid penalties if we can.
Yeah. A player that I want to talk to you about in Jacob Ramsey. Obviously Spurs were heavily linked with him in the summer, and I think we're both saying, you know, boy's got talent, but not sure if he's the player that we need at this moment in time. Is he going to take us on to the next level? He started to break into this Aston Villa side over the last couple of months again. In his last 3 games, he got 2 assists against Celtic, he got a goal against West Ham. I mean, has your opinions changed at all over him since the summer, or do you still think, you know, good player, but probably not one that changes the needle for us if we were to go get him?
Yeah, I think that's still still feel the same about him. I don't know where he really fits in for us, because I think for Villa, he plays kind of out wide a lot. But with the way they play their out wide plays, it suits him a lot more, rather than for us, where he needs to really be an effective kind of attacking player. Where for Villa, you can kind of get away with just being a bit of a workhorse out wide and contributing that way. Whereas for us, that won't really add much. Could he be one of the eights for us? I think he would be a really good 8. I think he's got a great engine. I think physically he would really suit us in that position. Actually, I think he's got brilliant stamina, brilliant engine, and he's also got a bit of an eye in the final third as well. So I think, again, if we would sign him, I think he would be a really good option in the 8. I don't think it's a massive game changer, but I think he would be a brilliant option as a squad player. And I do like him. I do like Jacob Ramsey, and I think he would be a worthwhile signing, but I think probably that time has passed. But like for Villa, like sometimes they play McGinn out wide, and like they just use that role sometimes a bit differently. So I think it works for him playing in the wide position, but I think out wide for us, I don't know if he would be the best option.
So I mean, how the hell do we get a result in this after trying to get ourselves and recover ourselves from Thursday night, which was going to be a taxing game? A lot of players just looked leggy, lethargic, passive. I mean, how do we get ourselves together and actually get a result in this game? It's going to be incredibly difficult.
Agreed. It's going to be very tough, especially if because Villa's a funny team, because when they're off it physically, they can they can let games pass them by sometimes, but when they're really physical and intense and they're on you, they can suffocate you. And so it's all about what Villa turn up on Sunday. Obviously with no Watkins, that's a big plus for us, because it just means that there'll probably be a bit less pressure on our centre backs. They probably won't physically be as up for as much of a challenge as they would have been if Watkins was there. But we're struggling physically ourselves, and whether we have that energy, if we have enough in the tank to really physically impose ourselves on this Villa side, or if we're going to be kind of on the back foot and we're going to let Villa take advantage here. It's hard to see that not happening with the state of the squad at the moment, even more players missing now. I think the best way to do it is just try and catching them out on their high line, try and get Sonny and Tell in behind as much as possible, and that means getting Porro on the ball a lot, getting in the middle, getting Bergvall on the ball, just trying to get those passes in behind, and try and catch him out with Tell, who obviously hasn't been in the team a lot, and so maybe he adds that air of unpredictability. I think Matthijs Tell. So I think he's going to be maybe that X factor potentially we have in that forward line, just purely for the fact that they won't know maybe what to expect. But I think, could the game be won or lost in midfield? That's what I'm worried about. If we get dominated in midfield like we did on Thursday, will we even get the chance to give it to him? Will we even get the chance to show what we're capable of on the ball? And that was the biggest disappointment, I think, against Liverpool, was the fact that it wasn't even necessarily that Liverpool had control, it was just that we offered nothing on the ball because we were just suffocated. And if we allow Villa to suffocate us, then I'm worried that we could be out the tie before it starts.
Yeah, that's the problem. And do you think Archie Gray in midfield does give us maybe those more energy levels that the other three weren't giving us? Because I mean, the thing is, Sarr does give us those energy levels still, but he's just clearly lacking in something at the moment, and the quality levels are just not there for him. Bissouma in these big games keeps letting us down. Bentancur, I don't know what happened to him on Thursday night, because he was actually performing at a really good level in the previous 2-3 games to this one. So it's hard to know what the actual issue is with some of these midfielders. A lot of them haven't even played that much because Bissouma was coming back from an injury, Bentancur was coming back from an injury, maybe just too many games after coming back from an injury. Maybe it is down to tiredness, but Bissouma seems to be doing these mistakes on a regularity in big games. This is another big game coming into it. So, I mean, I'm just stumped into thinking what we should actually do in this midfield.
Yeah, kind of seems like damned if you do, damned if you don't in a way. But because Gray's also been playing a lot. And we even thought Thursday was a good chance to give him a break, but he didn't. He decided to give Porro the break instead. Whether it was about giving a break or just because he felt like Gray deserved his spot, so he just gave it to Gray. I'm not sure. But it's difficult. It's difficult to kind of see which midfield is the right combination. I just think he needs a bit of ability on the ball, so I just think he needs Bergvall. The only other option would be put Decky in there and put Moore on the right, I guess. Or maybe put Decky in the middle, Patel on the right. I can't even do that. So or Patel on the right, Son up front, and Moore on the left. I guess he could tinker in that way, just to try and get Decky in the centre of midfield. But it's tough. It's really tough. There are a lot of different options. None of them seem perfect. All of them seem to have problems. So I think the midfield battle is going to be crucial in this game, making sure we just don't get completely dominated and suffocated. But with the fresh Rodgers buzzing around, with Onana with his legs, with Tielemans, his ability to control the game, it's difficult to go there and think we can absolutely win that midfield battle. The only thing I can think of is obviously they've got a makeshift backline. They're going to be playing a midfielder, albeit a more experienced midfielder than Gray. They're going to be playing midfielder in the backline. So could Tell take advantage of that? Could he make some runs which the midfielder won't like? Could he get beyond him? Maybe there's a case there. Could he maybe challenge aerially against Kamara in the middle and try and get an advantage? Maybe there is something there, but is it going to be enough to win the game? It's tough. Also, if Cash is out, they play this guy Garcia at right back. Could Son be looking at that thinking, I got to take him on, I got to take advantage of that situation? Because if they're playing a youngster there, Son has got to look at that thinking, look, I've got to really step up here.
He's got to stamp his authority on that side of the pitch for sure. Whatever happens, it's going to be an incredibly difficult game. It's a game where I'm struggling to see how we can get through this. I really am. How do you think we play this? Because obviously we've been playing a lot deeper and trying to counter-attack a bit more. Against Liverpool, there was clear mixed messaging because Ange said that he wanted his players to go and attack. We didn't see that on the pitch, and with the players that he did choose, it didn't seem like he told his players to attack. And then he did talk about potentially messaging being lost or mixed messaging going into that game. So do you think Ange maybe reverts back to a high line and trying to suffocate the opposition, or are we going to still sit a bit deeper and try and counter?
I don't think it's about Ange reverting. I think it's just about the players themselves having the belief in because he was saying after the game, I was listening to his press conference, he was saying how the players might think that they're conserving energy by sitting back, but what really is happening is they're doing more running by chasing the ball. And actually, if you press a bit higher, then you actually won't have to do as much running if you're winning the ball back higher. So I think it's the players themselves. I don't know if it's they're running on empty or what's happening at them on the pitch, but they don't seem to believe that they have the energy levels to obviously play how we usually play. So they're trying to be a bit more conservative, but it doesn't mean that on the ball they're not brave, and doesn't mean that they can't kind of take a bit more risk in their play than they are at the moment. And at the moment it's kind of gone the pendulum has swung way too much the other way, and it's meant that we're not threatened. We don't have anywhere near enough threat going forward, and I'm sure Ange is going to drill that into him going into this game, that look, we know that when we play Villa at our game, we usually come out on top and we usually are the better side. So if we can do that in this game for over the 90 minutes, we can get the better of them. We've shown that over various games against Villa. So I think he'll drill that in. I'm sure we're going to see a much more attacking Tottenham, but doesn't mean that the injury problems and the fatigue problems, all that kind of stuff, is not still going to be there. So we might do that, and I'm sure we'll be more of a threat, but will it be enough to win the game? I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah, so what are you saying? What do you think the score's going to be?
I reckon... Well, look, no Watkins is a big bonus. It is a big bonus. But I do think they're still going to be fresher, and they've still got a lot of weapons there, with Rashford now signed and Marlon there now, Asensio, Rodgers in great form.
He always seems to score against us, Rashford, as well.
I've just got a feeling that we're going to go out in the cup again. So I've got a feeling that it's going to be a 2-1 win to Villa.
2-1. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that. I'm just looking at the performance on Thursday night and so insipid and so lethargic and just nothing about us, and we just need to show something. And I do think there'll be some sort of a reaction, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough. And I think Villa, being the home side, how strong they are at home all season, I do kind of feel like we're going to go out of the cup again. And I'm going to back Spurs to score a couple, but I still think we're going to lose, and I'm going to say 3-2 to Aston Villa on the day. which is going to cause a big inquest in Ange Postecoglou if that does happen. Going out the 2 cups in the space of a week when we're all banking and relying on the fact Spurs do well in the cups this year. It's going to, bring up all those questions once again. But unfortunately, I can't see how Spurs get through this game against a Villa side with their own problems. But even with their own problems, they're still very strong at home, where, yeah, it's just hard to see how we get past this game. But again, we said this against Brentford, right? We said this, we can't see how we get a win against Brentford.
Yeah,
and we went and won against Brentford. So,
and also Villa are not Liverpool.
And Villa are not Liverpool. But so I think there is a possibility that Spurs can actually do something in this game and go and advance into the next round of the Cup. But sitting here right now,
probably need to win in the first half.
Yeah, like sitting here Friday afternoon, it's just, the Liverpool game is still so fresh in the memory and how poor that was. It's just hard to just envisage how we get a result.
Yeah, we just need to somehow do it. If we can get a result, it'll be fantastic. It really would, and it really would allow us another opportunity just to keep going in these cups and give us more opportunities to do something and salvage a bit of this season where it's dropping very, very quickly, and we're dropping our cups, we're losing games, and very quickly the season could be over before we know it if we keep losing these games. I think Ange knows that. I think the players know that. So I think they'll realise that. I would have said they realised how important the game on Thursday was, but I hope they realise how important this game is in the context of our season. We can't afford to go out in two cups in 3 days, so we need to get through on Sunday. But we're facing a very, very difficult Villa side, so either we could be at our best and some Villa can still beat us. So but with no Watkins, I also feel like, will they be a bit blunt in the forward line? Will they lack that focal point? They are very reliant on him, I feel. When I know Duran was scoring as well, but he's not there anyway. So without that physical presence in the front line, if Danso can kind of bully their striker, whoever they're playing, and make sure that we're kind of dominating those areas, maybe we can catch them out on their high line. Maybe Tell can get in behind them. Maybe Son can really take the game to their young fullback, and maybe there can be something there for us. But I feel like whatever happens, we will be waning, come the last half an hour or so. So the first hour is going to be crucial in this game.
But that's Tottenham Hotspur right now, isn't it? Hoping for the best, expecting the worst.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it is right now. But yeah, that's our match preview. Let us know in the comment section below. Do you think there's anything that Spurs can do in this game? Can we go to Aston Villa and advance into the next round of the FA Cup?